once upon a time, I was a big fan of Aaron and that channel, and you can go back and find comments where I am clapping and lauding, etc., etc. But even back then, I did ask a few questions because some things that Aaron was putting out didn't quite add up, but I was still enthusiastic. Like many people, the last year has been very shocking in terms of Aaron basically trying to get us involved in all these very odd controversies with the Aftermath Foundation, Claire Headley, Mike Rinder, and other former allies. And again, he has some legitimate issues and questions, but then he mixed it in with a whole lot of other insanities dealing with sex scandals, finance scandals, drug scandals, and just a lot of issues that he's not really dealing with. And the channel has really declined from at least doing a few good updates on Scientology to a lot of self-help stuff with his, there's no nice way of putting it, mistress, Jenna Miscavige, because that's right, he still hasn't officially filed for divorce, even though he's actively had like what, 3 to 4 affairs. Okay, tell me how that works. Anyway, so is Aaron over? Well, the good people at Reddit and YouTube and Social Blade do seem to suggest the channel is it's not in a good place. Again, I'm not going to do a full-blown autopsy because that would take a long time to go through the data more systemically. And again, I'm a very small channel, so I'm still trying to figure out how YouTube works. Some people are saying he's lost subscribers. He lost about 1,000 people in terms of subs. So he has lost a few people, but let's not exaggerate that he's losing tons and tons of people. But he has lost some support. And in terms of super chats, those have really dried up. He used to get some pretty good regular super chats, but now those are very, very thin and only a few apart. And I can only speak for myself, but one of the latest videos was just disastrously stupid. Even for Aaron, I'm just like, what was the point of this? And again, I'm not defending this woman, who by all accounts does seem like a horrific, stupid monster, but really, when you got to the center of the controversy, what are we doing? Well, apparently Aaron was upset that a Scientologist mother slash teacher was recommending that her kids learn how to work and cook and clean at a very young age.
Helping you sweep, a 3-year-old helping you do the dishes. You'd have a 4 and 5-year-old doing laundry, 6-year-old cooking dinner. You have so many benefits.
Even if they're not doing a great job, just so that they feel helpful and important. And actually, there's a difference in that and actually demanding it and requiring it. And I can tell you from personal experience, the Scientology bent on that one is to instill, to enforce this idea that if you're not doing X, Y, and...
Well, I do get his point that if you have a Scientology mindset, obviously with a cult in the background, this could be potentially bad. However, people in the comment section who don't even dislike him confirmed, which is my own experience, and I'm sure people will tell me this because it's true, that yeah, it's fairly normal at 5 to 6 for parents to teach kids how to do these things. You know, cook, clean, look after yourself. I mean, I can remember very clearly my mother taught me how to, here's a cereal, here's some milk, pour it, here's a spoon. Was she trying to get me ready to be indoctrinated in a satanic cult? No, this is fairly normal behavior. Now, some parents are going to be more laid back and saying, I don't think the kids should be doing any work. And some kids just have servants doing all their work. Yeah, a lot of celebrities have adults. They do all the cooking and cleaning. Is that healthy too? I don't know. It just seemed like a sheer nothing controversy. And it got even more laughable when Serge did a video commenting on Aaron's video. And it's like, the hotels and the abuse, it begins here. You give the child 5 years old a broom. L. Ron Hubbard and the ghost of the industrial hotels and the hotel. And what are you talking about? There is no hookup. And some things people were saying were so stupid. Say, you put a broom. You do realize you can make a small broom. Brooms come in various sizes. Brooms can come in various sizes, you idiots. Like, what are we talking about? No one with a brain thinks the FBI is going to raid this woman's house saying, what are you doing? I'm just having my kid with a broom. That's child abuse. You're going to go to jail for 40 years. What insanity is this? But Aaron's just putting out this video, and then he's proud of him saying, guys, I know I'm destroying Scientology because the women went private. I can no longer look at her Instagrams. Aaron, A lot of women are going private because they don't want you to get their messages because they don't want to date you. They don't want to look at you. They don't want to have any relationship with you. They're not because, oh, I'm for Scientology. It's because you have a reputation, which is true, of stalking and harassing a lot of women in and out of Scientology. And guess what? They don't want to deal with all that. It's not a big mystery here. But are there serious issues at play? Absolutely. Again, what OSA has done for decades and is still doing is pretty horrifying and it is terrifying. But it's not helped with these very moronic and very bad conjectures, guesswork, just very amateur stuff, which for obvious reasons the mainstream media will not take seriously and will not lead to legal cases. So whether you like Aaron, like Serge, like any of these, Nora or Miriam Francis, the question will always be yes, but is this significant or serious enough to lead to an actual legal case? And the answer is overwhelmingly is no. With the Aftermath Board, again, I didn't like what they did to Aaron. They may be justified, but I don't think they did it the right way. However, did they do anything illegal? I think that's very doubtful. In fact, given Aaron's behavior over the last year, probably a lot of people, even if he did a lawsuit, they'd say, yeah, well, maybe you should stay on the board, but there are good reasons to get you off the board. And just some of these conspiracy stories that keep generating with Mike Rinder. Listen, it's pretty clear Rinder has done horrifying things. His record's pretty bad. Now, whether you want to forgive him, move on, that is up to you. And it's fine to ask questions, but some of the things that they're positing that he does or can do, I know for a fact is not true. So Miriam Francis, like Aaron, is pushing these very phony trauma stories, and you're like, listen, it's clear that you were traumatized by a Scientologist. The question goes to whether Scientology as an organization can be indicted. And I have severe doubts that Mike Rinder is this secret guardian of all these secrets. There just is not strong evidence for that.
Relationships, with these very solid relationships with journalists, which is what I began to sort of encounter because I had contacted a couple of them and I was like, hey, it's like Mike Rinder's story. And they were like, oh, well, I'm like, the way they spoke about it, like they were like best friends with Mike Rinder. And I was like, that's really weird because how can you, because it was weird because they'd done stories, but they hadn't asked like the questions. They hadn't actually asked him questions. And I was like, anyways, so I'm like, there's this bias slant that's been going on for years, this narrative that's been created. And like, that's where I'm like, no, I.
Well, again, I can only speak for me. And again, I'm not saying I was a big journalist, but I did do some journalism for small and big papers, small and big magazines, a lot of online stuff. And I can tell you for a fact, dealing with editors or just doing my stories, I never heard of Mike Rinder's name. And these things cover movies, television shows. Tom Cruise is massive. He's big. And Mike Rinder was doing a lot of propaganda for Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise's sister and Rinder worked together. And Aaron exposed this. And I will give him a lot of credit there. It is true. There are a lot of Hollywood Scientology connections. So you would think, just as a matter of course, if Miriam is correct that Rinder is controlling the media, I would have known about this. And believe me, I was told, like saying, hey, do you want to do this interview? Do you want to do that interview? One time I was offered to do an interview with M. Night Shyamalan. I'm like, well, I just wasn't interested. But they were like, hey, if you want to go down to New York, you can do it. They do tell you, well, we prefer you ask this. We prefer you ask that. Here are some warnings. Here are some guidelines. I never once got an email or any communication or just face-to-face saying, oh, look out for Mike Rinder. He controls you. He's our handler. He works for OSA and we all work for the CIA. These are just bizarre, bad conspiracy theories. There is definitely a lot to be said about Rinder's past and OSA's past. The Miriam Francis tragedy, as bad as it is nothing. There are far worse cases in Scientology, which she does not cover, Aaron does not cover, and Serge, to be fair, did cover it and then moved on to other things. Apparently it's okay to take up a serious case in Scientology, murdering someone, and then go back to broom stories. I really can't take these people seriously. If you still want to give them money and attention and support, that's your business. It is just what it is, that the anti-Scientology movement is being split with these ex-Scientologists just pumping out these fake tragedy stories. And when we have genuine tragedies like the Lisa McPherson case, they don't even bother to do any real homework. Like Miriam embarrassing was saying, oh, that's very interesting. Oh, here's more input on the Lisa. Do you not know these things? Why are you talking about things you don't know about? So it's just very, very silly amateur stuff. And I don't think there's a big science about these cases because of Mike Rinder. It's because you people don't have credibility. You're putting out these very fake stories and with very, very thin ounces of evidence and putting out some incredibly large conspiracies about Claire Headley and Mike Rinder. And listen, it's fine to question them. There are legit questions to ask, but making all these weird, bizarre conjectures that Claire Headley was what? Manhandling, enslaving 10,000 young boys and shipping them off to David Miscavige's house to do things with for satanic rituals. Like, really, this stuff is just not credible. It's just cartoonish nonsense and does not really help destroy Scientology. It just destroys the credibility of these so called critics who are, yes, they suffered some tragedies, although they often leave out they were actively involved in these tragedies. And in some cases, they're still complicit in crimes. Because Miriam Francis, one of her friends, Louis Repetto. And you know how much Miriam has done to expose Louis Repetto and his crimes? Nothing. She hasn't done a single video. I don't think she's spoken about this at all.
These big, when he
Apparently
does these big displays and he talks in this grand way, I know straight away, like, you're bullshitting.
She didn't care.
And that's the way that he spoke about.
A lot of fakeness going on with these so-called critics and their, quote, moral outrage about the alleged evils of Scientology, which oftentimes is their own evil, which they're not willing to confront, which is their business. But why should we care about this? I don't know. So is Aaron's channel going to turn around? I have strong doubts. It looks like it will decline for some time. But hey, I will still keep an open mind. When he occasionally does good stuff, I will take a look. But for the most part, it is really, really declining into tabloid conspiracy nonsense. And not even good tabloid conspiracy nonsense, but really thin, very thin gruel.
Like, that's where I'm like, no, I don't want to, I'm not participating in that. You can't control what I say. Like, I'm going to disrespectfully disagree, basically.